Hey everyone, it's your Nothing is Wasted podcast host, Davey Blackburn here, and I want to share with you one of the many resources that we have for you in your pain to purpose journey. One of the things we hear a lot from listeners like you is the ways in which the place that should be offering hope and healing for you is actually added to your pain. Not in all cases, but in many cases, especially recently, I've heard this a lot. The church is God's redemption plan, and yet, because of the imperfection of the people inside of churches all over the world, so many people are walking away from church wounded from what we're calling church hurt or spiritual abuse. And that's why we want to introduce to you our latest masterclass that we just released called When People Fail, Finding a Way Through Church Hurt. On this masterclass, my friend, author and speaker Natalie Runyon will help you through the pain of church hurt. With practical wisdom and heartfelt understanding, you'll be encouraged in your own experience with church hurt. You can go purchase this class a la carte by going nothingiswasted.com/masterclass, or better yet, I want to encourage you to join our Community Plus membership. And for just $20 a month, which is, by the way, a tax-deductible donation to Nothing is Wasted Ministries. So if you sign up for Community Plus, we send you a statement at the end of the year. For just $20 a month, you'll have access to this masterclass and all of our content in our growing content library. So all of the other masterclasses that we've ever done, all of our mini courses, all of our bonus episodes, all of our on-demand events, everything. Nothingiswasted.com/community plus is where you can find out more information and sign up today for Community Plus. And I want to encourage you, go through this masterclass, When People Fail, Finding a Way Through Church Hurt. Because here's the reality, people can fail us, and they probably will. And churches can disappoint us, and they probably will. No matter what, God will remind us that when we bring him our pain, nothing is wasted. Pick up this masterclass from my friend Natalie Runyon, When People Fail, Finding a Way Through Church Hurt.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Nothing is Wasted podcast. I am your host today, Aubrey Sampson, and very excited to be here with you. So excited that you are here. Here at Nothing is Wasted, we are passionate about helping you take back your story, especially if you've had a story of pain, loss, heartache, even health struggles. And we truly believe that in the heartache, in the pain, God is there. God is in the valley with you, and is not just with you, but actually is doing something redemptive and wants to bring you to a place of hope and healing and calling. And so those are the stories that we tell here at Nothing is Wasted. If you're new, welcome. We are so glad you're here. If you're a regular listener, we are so grateful for you. Today's conversation is deeply, deeply powerful. It's with Natalie Buchoz. She's the executive director for Dr. Daniel Amen, who Davey got to sit down and have a conversation with. And her story, she'll tell it, so I don't want to say too much. But when she was 15, she had a catastrophic spinal cord injury. It left her paralyzed from the waist down. She was this elite athlete, and her entire life changed. And yet God met her there. And I don't mean like God sort of vaguely showed up in that. I mean God like met her in powerful, tangible ways. And as Natalie and I were talking, I think you'll sense this as you listen. Like, it was a faith-filled, spirit-filled conversation. My faith was encouraged. My mindset was changed as we were listening about some things. Her like effervescence and her hope is really, really contagious. And so just even getting to spend a few minutes having this conversation about how God had met Natalie, like my faith was built, my faith was encouraged. And so I know yours will be as well. I know you are going to love the wisdom that she brings to the table, and really, talking about grief from a totally different perspective, like a young girl being a teenager, which is such a difficult time, walking through this incredibly traumatic event, and God showing up in an instant in her life. I cannot wait for you to hear the things she has to say. And, sometimes there's a type of positivity that I'm a little bit of a cynic. You guys might know that about me by now if you're regular listeners. I hope I'm like a lovely cynic, but I'm kind of a cynic, a charming cynic. And sometimes there's a type of positivity that to me feels like spiritual bypassing, and I am not a fan of it. That is not Natalie. Like, Natalie has earned her positivity. She has earned her hope. She has rooted it in like good, deep meaning and in Jesus and in this very positive mindset where her limiting beliefs, she recognized them, moves through them, and then moves to a place of like, nope, I can do what God has called me to do, and so can you. And I think you're gonna love her. She's kind of like a coach. Like, she's still got that athlete in her. So let's go ahead and take a listen to my conversation with Natalie Buchoz. I know you're gonna be encouraged today. Well, Natalie Buchoz, welcome to the Nothing is Wasted podcast. I'm so glad that we get to sit down and chat today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, Natalie. So we're going to dive deep into your story, but I would love for you to tell people a little bit about yourself before we dive in.
Yeah, so where do I start? So I grew up in Orange County, California, and I had a really normal, everyday 15-year-old life. And I was super into sports. I was a really athletic young girl, and I had really big dreams to go play Division I softball or volleyball.
Oh, wow.
At UCLA, actually. And, I think for the listeners out there, I kind of was just like you. I was just like everybody else. I was like a daughter, a friend, somebody in your life. And at 15, I had a life-altering injury. I went to Big Bear, and I had gone skiing a couple times, but it wasn't like I was obviously not very good at it, as we're going to get into it. But I went over a lip of snow, and I fell on my tailbone, and I ended up enduring a whiplash injury that broke my C5, C6 vertebrae and left me paralyzed from the neck down.
Natalie.
And at that time in my life, I'd actually never broken a bone before.
Come on.
What happened was, when I fell, I was actually face down in the snow, and I was laying there unable to move. And at that point, I thought, have I broken every single bone in my body? Why can't I move?
Ooh.
Did I die?
Yeah.
And
wow.
I laid there for, it felt like an eternity, but it was only about a minute before people had gotten to me, and I was placed on a stretcher. And this was a very telling moment for me. As I was on the stretcher, I had a really young paramedic, and I was witnessing him touch my toes and kind of it looked like squeeze them, and he was determining whether I would have to go to a trauma hospital or just a general hospital. And he kept asking me if I could feel him touching my toes, and it was the most weird and surreal thing to watch somebody touch a part of your body and
you couldn't feel it.
And you couldn't feel it.
Oh, Natalie, I can't even imagine.
And so he did my left foot, and then he did my right foot, and can you feel it? No. Can you feel it? No. And I said, nope. And so I think the look of his face is something that will be permanently ingrained in my head. And the look of fear and anxiety that he tried to maintain while trying to, maintain me and stay calm. So then I was put into the ambulance, and at that time when I was injured, I actually was with an ex-boyfriend that I was dating at the time, and so I wasn't with my family, so I had to go into the ambulance at 15 by myself all the way down this mountain.
Oh, Natalie.
And, and kind of going down the mountain, I had really no understanding of what had happened to me. I did not know I broke my neck. I didn't understand why I couldn't feel anything. And nobody really told me that. And so as I'm going down the mountain, as you can imagine, in an ambulance, you're going really fast. The lights are on. It's really loud. I was really scared. But I also, I said, I really wasn't fully grasping the situation.
Sure.
And so when we got to the bottom of the mountain, I was then airlifted to Loma Linda, which is a trauma hospital in California. And during that moment was...
Were you you're by yourself still at this point? Like you're going from ambulance to a helicopter by yourself. I mean, obviously with the paramedics, etc. But like, oh, Natalie, okay, keep going. Oh, my mama's heart for you. Oh.
Yeah, no, it's so crazy to like reflect on it as well, because I often, obviously I don't think about that a lot, but like going into it and how I've been kind of sharing my story, it's been so interesting to kind of reflect and be like, wow, I can't believe I got through that. But anyways, so when we got into the helicopter, this was actually a really pivotal moment in my life, and something that it took me about 10 years to be able to even talk about to my close family and friends, let alone share on the internet or share on podcasts with people. But as I was going into the helicopter, something that happens with spinal cord injuries, which are, obviously not very discussed or known unless you have to go through one or you have a loved one that goes through one, is especially for me. So think about somebody like Christopher Reeve, who had broken his cervical, his neck at a very high level. He had I think it was a C1 and C2 injury. I had a C5 and C6 injury, so a little bit lower down on the neck. But pretty much what happens is there's different bodily systems that start to not function. And so for me, I had 2 lungs. One was fully collapsing, and then the other one was about 60% collapsed by the time that I got into the helicopter. So they didn't know that at the time, because everybody's different. Everybody's different with a spinal cord injury. You could have the same injury as me, and we could have
totally different experiences. Okay,
Totally. So at that time, as they were getting me into the helicopter, I was suffocating. And so
because your lungs are literally collapsing. Oh, Natalie.
So I was unable to breathe. I was hyperventilating, the whole thing. And I actually had, and I don't think I would fully understand what it was in this moment, but I actually had I think it was about 13 seconds where I wasn't breathing.
Stop.
And during that time, I experienced something that like I said, I couldn't really put into words. I guess people would call it a near-death experience. Yeah. And during that time, I was in a place where I had no pain. I was in a place where I experienced just pure light and bliss. And and it's interesting because I have done a lot of research on near-death experiences.
I bet you have.
Because it took me years to be able to understand why I got to go there for that amount of time, and then I had to come back here. Yeah. And it was almost like I had survivor's guilt in a weird sense. And,
fascinating.
And so, I think for a lot of people that experience near-death experiences, 2 things happen, and this is what I found in my research. And there's a really great researcher, and I'm totally blanking on his name, but he talks about he had about 15 people that had near-death experiences, whether it was a car accident, something horrible. And 2 things happen. The first one being that you have an experience similar to mine where you don't necessarily leave your body. It's not like you're kind of hovering over, but you're kind of, you're in a space that's not earthly. And the second one being that you have an experience where you hover over yourself, and you're kind of like at the top of the ceiling, and you're kind of looking over at this
almost
situation.
Watching. Wow.
Yes. And so that experience, to say that changed my life, to say that changed me, to say, all of it, I will never be the same person because of those, obviously my injury, but those 13 seconds of my life. And so
Natalie.
with that, obviously they put an oxygen mask on my face, and then they rushed me into the emergency room. When they rushed me into the emergency room, I then had to have a 6.5-hour surgery to fuse my spine together. And it was so crazy to make a little bit of make it a little light of this is that the first time I saw my parents, I looked at them and I said, I'm so sorry. Because I had a softball tournament the next weekend, and their last words to me were like, don't injure yourself.
Oh,
because,
no. For the softball tournament.
Yeah, you have a big tournament next weekend.
Oh,
and it's
you're
like,
such a teenager. You're like, I'm so sorry. I don't want to be in trouble.
I know, I'm so sorry. Well, it's like, and I think at that time I had no idea really, obviously, what I was getting what had happened to me and what was going on. And so I had the surgery and I came out of it. And, even when I had come to after the surgery, I was in for, to say a wild ride would be a great understatement.
Yeah.
With my lung capacity and what I had experienced there, I had to do breathing treatments. Aside from just recovering from this surgery, I spent 3.5 weeks in ICU. I had to do breathing treatments.
Sure.
I luckily did not have to be intubated, which is a big thing for cervical injuries, and that also prolongs your time immensely in ICU. I was very lucky I didn't have to do that, but I have parents that really, I have an aunt that is a doctor that was like on my team. I have incredible parents that didn't give up on me, I think again would be an understatement, but they were like, we're just, no matter what is going on, we're gonna get through this. If we have to, stick a tube up your nose and snuck all the snot out,
we're doing
everything, like it's happening and we're doing it and we're not going anywhere. And I recognize what a privilege that is to have a support system like that, because I've met a lot of people that have gone through similar injuries that don't have that. Yeah.
Wow, Natalie. Whew, that's a lot. I know. I mean, I knew that was your story, obviously, coming into it, but hearing it and just thinking, I'm a mom of 3 teenagers right now, so thinking about my precious 15-year-olds going through something like that, you're still, I mean, your frontal cortex hasn't closed yet. You're 15. You're in the throes of being a teenage girl anyway. This life-changing thing happens. These 13 seconds that will forever change you happen. You have this totally transcendent spiritual experience. At this point, and then you're just going through the rigors, obviously, of recovery and what your life looks like post injury. Mm-hmm. What is 15-year-old Natalie doing to kind of just even survive that, cope with it? What were you thinking? How were you processing it all?
Yeah, I think for me, like I had said, for a long period of time from the injury into ICU, I think a lot of disassociation, to be honest, in terms of what was happening to me, my new reality. And I think for myself, I have always been a woman of faith and I've always known the Lord. And I have had some true angels that I know were placed around me that led me and were able to, console me and help me and understand what I was going through. I had an incredible nurse who, was there for me and advocated for me. Obviously my parents, as I mentioned, and I also had an incredible pastor that, he came into the ICU room. He prayed with me. He just was there for me. And, I just think that for people that are going through really hard things, and we talk about people being contagious, right? If you're surrounded by people that are negative and, that are, that put you down or whatever it may be, it weighs on you. But then for the opposite, if you're surrounded by people that are like, hey, we're going to get through this. I believe in you. This is not the end. We're going to do this. It really helps you, kind of start to visualize that within yourself. And then you are able to get through hard things. And for me, my mom and I, we always, we started at a very young age with my injury that we celebrated all of the small victories. And keep in mind, they were very small. Like I was able to pick up a toothbrush and brush my teeth. They were, I could sit up in my chair independently for 4 minutes. They were, I can slightly wiggle a big toe. I mean, they were incredibly small, but looking back, those, I think those principles that were kind of instilled in me during that time have completely changed the way that I live my life, and also just the way that I'm able to share that with people and give people perspective around celebrating yourself and
I love that.
And and not overlooking small victories, because
Small
I think,
victories,
because I think often for just anybody, like, it's always like, oh, the big milestones, I need to make a lot of money, I need to buy a house, I need to do this, I need to graduate college, and those are amazing things, don't get me wrong, but if you are only focused on wildly huge, big, earthly desires, you just will, no matter if you get them, you're still going to be like, oh, I gotta need the next thing, I gotta get to the next thing.
That's so true, Natalie. And
I think it's funny because, like, on one of my Instagram videos, I talked about that, and I was like, I live in Southern California, and I often ride my chair on the boardwalk, and it's funny because I look at people, and I often think, like, I wonder if I was on 2 feet and this had never happened to me, what would Natalie be like?
Yeah.
Would she be playing softball at a university like I thought? Would I be doing X, Y, Z? And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I think if Natalie had never gotten hurt, she probably would have never gotten out of the ocean. She would be swimming and always trying to achieve and always trying to do more and never being satisfied. And Natalie, that has had the injury, is forced to stay on the sand. She's forced to go inward. She's forced to, dive deeper into her relationship with Jesus. She's forced to, to do the hard inner work that I never
Natalie.
thought that I would be able to do, and would be doing. So
I am curious about that. That leads me to, like, 2 different questions. And thanks for sharing that too, because that is an incredible perspective. Like, you're right. You'd be swimming in a different ocean, an ocean of just, like, achieving and hustling and the next thing and the next thing, and no satisfaction, and probably not the amount of depth and wisdom you've experienced. And I love that you said that journey inward and then leaning more into your intimacy with Jesus. How has Jesus met you in this? Like, even just starting early at 15, this initially happens, and then even now as he sustained you, like, just, talk to us about that piece of your journey.
As I shared with my spiritual experience, I think for me, having a spinal cord injury, and many people that have had catastrophic injuries, you often feel really alone. I know for myself, at being 15 years old and being female, there's not a lot of female gals that get spinal cord injuries. They're much more.
Wow.
I joke, I'm like, it's for the daredevils and and me. So, but
this club you're in.
I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I'm here. But I think it's a very isolating experience, and for me, having that experience and knowing that I'm not alone, and for me, there's been often so many nights where I've been up with terrible nightmares, kind of revisiting that experience.
You have, wow.
Or I've been up with physical pain that I haven't been able to go to sleep, and really the only person and the only thing that has brought me comfort is my relationship with Jesus, is being able to pray, is being able to know that what I'm going through down here is for a short period of time until I spend eternity in no pain on 2 legs, made new in his kingdom. And I think for a lot of us on earth, we live for this earth. We live for the achievement. We live for, like we said, the career, the money, the X, and some of us still feel really empty inside. And I think for me, it was almost like the opposite, right? I didn't have the career. I didn't have the college. I couldn't play sports. My whole identity really had shifted. And for a long part of that, I was like, well, who am I if I can't do this? Who am I if I can't have my friends that I grew up with, that I played sports with? And I just think that for so many of us that are questioning our worth and questioning like why we're on this planet and what our purpose is, I just would urge you to surrender and get quiet in what you need, and start talking to Jesus and ask him what he needs from you, and he'll show you. And I know for me, he's showed me, he's revealed people in my life that don't have a place. He's showed me people in my life that have completely elevated who I am, have brought me closer to the Lord instead of away from it. But you know, it's the surrender, and also to having the discernment and discipline to know that this is the path that I'm supposed to. People say walking, I say rolling on.
Come on, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think those are the two things that I would say has brought me closer to the Lord.
Well, everyone, it's here. You've been asking for it, and now it's officially here. The Nothing is Wasted sweatshirt, and just in time. I mean, the weather is starting to get a little bit chilly, and you're trying to figure out how to get cozy this fall and this winter. Well, now you can wrap yourself in the comfort of the message of all that we do here at Nothing is Wasted Ministries, and that is nothing is wasted. God doesn't waste our pain. Now, we know it's not just a mantra or a catchphrase for those of us who have walked through the painful valleys of loss and grief, trauma and tragedy. It's a posture of our heart and a prayer. Lord, in this valley, will you not waste our pain? This is too great of pain to go through to be wasted. And so this sweatshirt will not only offer you a reminder that God is at work in your story, but it'll also offer you a conversation starter with other people that you come in contact with, to where you can begin to share your own testimony of how God is showing up in your story and how God will show up in their story as well. I promise you, this is an incredible sweatshirt. Not to mention, it's extremely comfortable. It is high quality. It's a champion brand, and it comes in two different colors, black and this color that my wife fondly calls sand, which may not sound that appealing, but I promise you, it's a beautiful color. And so you can check all of that out at nothingiswasted.com/sweatshirt. Order one for yourself, order one for a friend. This is perfect in time for the holidays. Maybe a friend or family member of yours needs to be reminded that whatever they're facing, that nothing is wasted. So go ahead and pick up your sweatshirt at nothingiswasted.com/sweatshirt. We've got we have a limited quantity of these. So head over to nothingiswasted.com/sweatshirt today and order yours. Don't wait. nothingiswasted.com/sweatshirt.
So many of our listeners, Natalie, are people who are walking through some tragedy or trauma or major life transition. Obviously, your story is that as well. And they're experiencing grief, and I think just searching for, how to make meaning from the grief, how to make sense of it in one sense. And I wonder for you, because you have such a bright countenance and you have such incredible perspective on this thing. I know that's something you have probably fought for, and that it's authentic. Like, you're not just pretending like everything is okay. You're real about the pain and the heartache and the change and the identity, and yet you're rolling forward, as you said. How did you process, and how, I guess, have you ongoingly processed your grief since the accident?
Yeah, I think the big part, as I shared earlier, in terms of the old Natalie, or the life that I thought I was supposed to live, it's almost like mourning a death, right? It's almost like mourning a person that is no longer here. And I think for myself, the biggest thing that had helped me, like I had shared, is, asking for, like, what is my purpose here? And I had that conversation with Jesus over and over. What is my purpose now? What do you want for me? Show me what show me who you need me to be, help me understand why I have to go through this. And I don't know if I had necessarily grief. I think I had confusion.
Yeah.
But I do think that the grief and the mourning of the old version of me had a huge impact on people that were very close to me, like my younger sister. Had a really hard time with what had happened to me, obviously. And I think a large mourning of the sister that I used to be, and coming to grips with my new reality and who I am now. But I just think that, looking back, because, it's been 15 years since my injury, and looking back, I always joke with my mom, but I know that this had to happen to me because of who I am now. Because there's not a person in my family that could have handled it the way that I've handled it. And I think there's two elements to having a catastrophic injury. And I know we'll talk about Dr. Amen in a little bit and my work with him, but we talk about a level of post-traumatic growth, which is a term that defines somebody going through a hardship that experiences significant growth in their life, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever that looks like.
Wow.
And they have a new sense of self because of what they have endured, right? It changes you,
So true.
and it elevates you in a sense. And then on the other side, obviously, I think many listeners are aware of what post-traumatic stress disorder is, and and how crippling that is for people that experience that. And I do think that there is two elements to what I have experienced. I've definitely had post-traumatic stress in terms of experienced nightmares for years about what had happened to me, and and that was a big part of my life. And then and then again, it never made me mad at what happened to me. It never made me pissed at God. I think because of what I had seen in the helicopter, I just knew that this is all temporary.
Wow, Natalie. Wow.
This is what I'm going through is temporary. And I want to get, it like makes me emotional, but like when I get to heaven, and if whoever's listening to this podcast know that, I don't know if I've been there, but I know that what I experienced is something not of this world. And I know that when I get there, I want to sit or stand at the throne of our Maker. And I want him to say, good and faithful servant. You did what I told you to do, and thank you for trusting my vision. And it's not, I think for a lot of people that experience something that, changes them deeply, whether it's physically or emotionally, there's so many days where, do I wake up and have I thought, this sucks? I wish that it was easy for me to, throw on my clothes and take a shower independently and do what I need to do. Like 100%, I'm a human being. But at the same time, would I change what had happened to me? Would I had not gone skiing that day if I had the opportunity? If I had never gotten to experience this spiritual change within me, I would have gone skiing every day. I would have done it over.
Wow. Come on.
100 times.
Wow, Natalie. Wow. Oh, that makes me emotional too. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, wow. Okay, so I have so many questions for you, but the one I'm thinking of, and I do want to talk about your work with Dr. Amen, but so you're praying, God, show me kind of the purpose behind this. Who do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? And at some point you start sharing your story with other people. I'm imagining part of that is discovering the why behind this. So for you, at what point were you like, okay, Lord, I know my assignment now?
I think probably about 5 years ago. So we'll take it back even further. So I went to USC and I graduated with a degree in public relations and business. And during that time, it was interesting because that was probably the first time in my life where I was just Natalie. Like I wasn't Natalie who had a catastrophic injury. I was at a school with so many smart, amazing, intellectual young kids. And I was just Natalie. Nobody knew my story. Nobody knew what had happened to me. And during that time, I had such a like a confidence shake where I felt really purposeful. I felt so driven. And I've always been a motivated young woman, but I've just, it changed me. And during that time, I regained this sense of like, okay, I kind of have a feeling that I want to share more of my life. And so that had happened. And then after college, I started working for an incredible psychiatrist. His name is Dr. Daniel Amen. He is one of the world leading psychiatrists. He sees most of your favorite celebrities as well as incredible thought leaders. And I started working for him. And at the time, I had read a couple of his books and I thought he was amazing. And he, I've been with him for the past 8 years, and during our time together, I have led his entire digital footprint. So I'm the head of his brand. I oversee, all of his production, content, media strategy, and we have grown so much together. So I think for myself, he has obviously, with being a psychiatrist, he does psychoanalyze us a little bit, and he does force us to go inward, our team, and he challenges us. So he challenges me in a way where I feel like I have grown so much as an individual emotionally. But then at the same time, I challenge him in the sense where he is, obviously so incredible as a physician and a thought leader and a maverick and all of the things. But I think that I've challenged him in a sense where I'm like, you can't help everybody with seeing everyone. So we need to put you online. And we need to, share your thoughts and
expand your territory a little bit.
100%. And so he trusted my vision in what that would look like. And with Dr. Amen, with all of his platforms, you can follow him on Instagram at Doc Amen if you don't already. But it's with helping him expand his brand. It kind of got me thinking. I was like, and he had been sharing that with me as well. He's like, you need to be sharing your story.
Yes.
And I think for a long time I was like, I'm just comfortable behind the camera.
Right.
Like,
I'll just let you do it.
You just shine. I'll be back here. And, he just would continually encourage me. And at the time, I was like, I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say, and I think I want to share it. But it's so interesting how God does that, how he places people in your path and, and shows you like, hey, I gave you the confidence when you were at USC. Now you're working with an incredible thought leader. You're helping build his brand. You have all of the tools. I'm putting them in front of you. Now I need you to be brave enough and bold enough to step into it.
So
and
good.
I think for a lot of us, that is incredibly scary. And I know for myself, that was like I don't want to talk about the worst day of my life all the time.
Forever. That's like forever. My whole identity. Yeah.
Right. But I think a big shift came in me when a couple of years ago when I thought, 15-year-old Natalie would have loved to see this version of Natalie. She would have loved to open her Instagram app and see somebody like me now who is purposeful, who is happy, has an amazing career, has an amazing relationship, is independent. And I never saw that. Like when I was going through hard things, like it was back when like MySpace was like the thing and like Facebook, right?
Yes.
Just gonna age myself. But it was back when MySpace and those types of social media networks were around. And so now I even, open Instagram and I follow so many incredible thought leaders. And I just think that if we all gave a percentage of ourselves that was just a little bit more real and a little bit more vulnerable, like what a different place we would all live in. And so, I think I just took a chance on myself. I said,
good for you.
There is nothing that's going to be harder than what I had to go through at 15.
Isn't that the truth?
And, but I think we all, and I'll use the word paralyzed, I think we're all so paralyzed by outward judgment from your peers, from other people's opinions. And there's so many people that I talk to, like even in our organization at work, we have over 50 incredible psychiatrists, and I started an ambassador program within our company. And with that, it was helping our doctors position themselves online as thought leaders and everything. And you would be so like, it would be so crazy to hear some of the things that they had said. They're like, I don't want to put myself out there. What are people going to think? And I'm like, if we all stayed in that, what are people going to think? I would be nowhere. I would live in judgment land that would spiral into victim land that would lead me to nowhere land.
That's right.
And I just think that there's so many people that, they want to do such amazing things, but they're so scared of judgment. And I think for myself, the biggest way forward and the most easy way forward is just through. And it's two things. It's through. It's just to keep moving forward. And then the second one is to try. And I think that's like the biggest that's like the biggest misconception, I feel like, because you always hear people say you need to work hard. If you want to get anywhere and you want to get a level up or whatever it may be in your career, your relationship, you need to work hard. And it's like, yes, let's not discredit working hard.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, what if we just said you need to try?
That's it. Oh, I'm telling you. Yeah.
What if we just said like, hey, you want to write a book, but you're like, it's too big, I don't know what to do. And it's like, well, why don't you just
start.
Put your thoughts, just start.
See what happens. Yeah.
Put some words on a page and like, let it be that. And, and I think that was really helpful for me, like growing up, because it was like, obviously I had all these physical issues that I had to do physical therapy for years and whatever. But, the biggest thing that has propelled me in my physical injury, in my emotional health, in my career, whatever it may be, is just trying. And like, there's been so many things where it's, I'm like, okay, well, that didn't really go that great.
That didn't work.
That didn't go that great. Maybe we could do that better. But you know what? I'm proud of myself because I put myself out there and I tried.
Yeah. And I think all of that trying to, even if you quote unquote fail, that's information. That's growth.
Totally.
That's learning. So I think that's part of that process of even overcoming the imposter syndrome is like, give it a try, know that failure is part of it, and that's good. Like, that helps. That encourages you for the next thing.
Hi, friends. Just want to interrupt this conversation to see if you're looking for a way to help a friend who is hurting. You having a hard time knowing how to show up and show that you care in whatever pain they're walking through right now. Listen, we understand, and we've been there. Even though I've walked through my own trauma and painful season, I can still struggle to know how to best enter into the pain of those around me. I'll never forget the first funeral that I preached after losing my late wife Amanda in 2015. I showed up and I felt like I was stumbling through, not knowing what to say, because it just is so difficult to know exactly how to enter into somebody else's pain. In fact, there were so many people who were well-meaning right after my late wife passed away that they would send me all kinds of different things, but most of those things, they either filled my house with clutter or I ended up disposing of them because it just wasn't useful. As well-meaning and well-intentioned as people were, they just, I don't think, knew what to send me. You want to find that perfect combination of meaningful and thoughtful and practical. And that's why we've created the Nothing is Wasted Restore Box. Nothing is Wasted Restore Box is just what you've been looking for as you seek to show support and love for a friend, a coworker, or a family member who is hurting. The Restore Box is a thoughtfully curated gift box that has some of our favorite resources and reminders from Nothing is Wasted Ministries that will encourage anyone who is walking through a difficult time. Whether it be loss, a divorce, a lost job, an unexpected diagnosis, betrayal, or just a season of depression or anxiety, or really any other pain point for that matter. This box is for when someone you love needs a reminder of hope and that nothing is wasted in their pain. Each Restore Box includes a copy of the Nothing is Wasted book, a copy of the Pain to Purpose devotional, a beautifully crafted scripture pack full of encouraging verses, the Nothing is Wasted anvil paperweight, and a Nothing is Wasted wristband. Now, we know it's hard to step into someone's pain, but we also know the cost of not stepping in is far greater. You can show you care and offer hope at the same time by sending your friend the Restore Box. Just head to nothingiswasted.com/RestoreBox. That's RestoreBox, RESTOR box. So leave off that second E and give a meaningful gift to someone in your life who is hurting. You can follow the link in the show notes if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, or right below this YouTube video if you're watching it on YouTube, nothingiswasted.com/RestoreBox, and give the gift of hope and healing to that person in your life who's going through a difficult time. nothingiswasted.com/RestoreBox.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's like, and also for me, like, there's been so many things where I've even, let's just talk for a second about like maybe putting yourself in an uncomfortable position. Like maybe for me, and I talked about this on a podcast recently, but like many celebrities that walk into, you know, if you saw Miley Cyrus at the grocery store, it's like the cameras are out, I want to take photos.
Yeah,
she kind of gets swarmed, she gets stared at.
Yeah.
But someone like me, not a celebrity by any means, but all of my problems are on the outside. My chair, my biggest issues, you could see them. The first thing that you see when I roll into a room. And one of the big things that I had to work on internally very early in my injury was being okay with people staring at me and knowing that other people's opinions, and by them looking at me, it doesn't mean that they feel sorry for me or whatever I think that they're thinking. That was like a big thing, because when I was younger, I was like, I just want to like exist like everybody else. I just want to be normal. I want to exist like everyone else. And then I prayed on that a lot, and I was like, I just want to fit in. I want to be like everyone else. And like what I heard was like, you're not like everybody else. You're just, and it's not even the injury that made you like that. It's like, you're not like everyone else. You're set apart for a reason, and you have to know that you can't control other people's facial expressions, their words, whatever it may be. The only person that you can control is how you react to it. And so that took a lot of like exposure therapy.
I bet it did. Like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, but like even like as an adult, like going to, the grocery store, whatever it may be, it's sometimes do I get asked if I need help? Do I get asked if I could open the door? Are people kind? 100%. And do I appreciate it? 100%. But are there times where I just want to go to the grocery store and be like an everyday gal?
Yeah,
and
just
go
like
get
in,
stuff?
get out. Right.
Totally, yeah. But, I think for anybody, you can't control other people. And the harder that you do, the more unhappy that you get. And I just know for me, like, I had so much physical pain and other things that I was going through. I was like, I can't add another element of what are people why are people staring at me? What what does that look like in my life?
Natalie, so thank you for sharing that. Okay, I have like kind of a detailed question, because I know our audience is going to be curious. So you're 15, you have this prognosis, and you're defying odds in a lot of ways, right? Because didn't they essentially say like she's never going to sit up on her own? So tell us where you are now, post injury.
Yes. So when I was first injured, my doctors had shared with me that I would most likely never walk again. I would never sit up. I would never be independent. I would have to most likely live on disability for the rest of my life. I would have to be taken care of.
Wow.
And when you hear all those words, the first thing that I thought of was burden.
Oh.
You are essentially a 15-year-old burden to your parents, to people that love you. And that was something that I kept in for like a really long time. And I think it stopped me from doing some things at an early age, because I was like, it would be easier if I wasn't there. Like, it would be easier if I didn't do this, or, know, and it was such a, like, limiting belief, right?
Yeah, totally.
A limiting belief, and I think we could all attest to this, not even if you have a spinal cord injury, but like, you think these things about yourself, or somebody says something to you that then propels this must be true about me.
Yeah.
And so that was mine at an early age. And I think for, in terms of my recovery, so at 6 weeks, I was able to wiggle a big toe, which is a really big deal because you're getting a signal from your brain all the way down to your foot. I walked at my high school graduation.
You did?
Yeah, to get my diploma. I have a really old video of it. I should post it on my Instagram.
Oh, yeah, you definitely should.
So I did that, which was a huge milestone. I was working really hard on physical therapy to do, and I'm able to stand. I have feeling in certain parts of my legs. There are certain parts that are also still numb. I drive. I graduated from college. I'm engaged. I'm going to get married soon.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
I know. I'm so excited.
When's your wedding? You don't need to say that. That's private. But congratulations.
Yeah, no, I'll share with you off camera.
Okay.
But, I think for somebody that has something, terrible happen to them, I think regardless of what people share with you, and again, it's no discredit to these doctors because that's what they're taught. They're taught that if you have somebody that has a cervical injury, the prognosis is all the same. And for myself and my journey, I just know that, any doctor, any person, whatever it may be, it's like God is in control. And he's making the decisions to where my life is going to go and what it's going to look like and who I'm going to be and what I'm going to do it with and how I'm doing it for the kingdom. That's in his control. It's not mine. And it goes back to the surrender of being like, I'm okay with whatever direction it goes in because I know your hand is in it. But I did have a lot of friends, that I had met through my journey that were really pissed, were really resentful, were really mad, with their situation. And like I had said earlier, are there days where I am not loving it? I'm pissed. I wish that I could, run a mile and do what I used to love to do on two legs, 100%. But I just think that where I am at emotionally, aside from all the physical things that I've achieved, I think where I'm at emotionally and my purpose and knowing myself and being secure in my relationship with Jesus is my most proud achievement. And if anybody gets anything from my story and what I share is knowing that you can go through really hard things and you're going to come out a different version of yourself and it's going to completely change the trajectory of your life. And that's what happened to me. But did it take 6 months? No. Did it take a year? No. Did it take 5 years? No. Did it take a whopping 8 to 10 years? 100%.
Yes, it did.
100%.
Slow work.
slow work, but important work. And the biggest thing has been continual progress. It's been slow but steady progress because I didn't give up. I decided to keep going, and I think that's what we all want. In a way, it's like we all want to be able to get through really hard things, whether you've lost somebody, whether you have an injury like mine, whether you're trying to help someone that's getting through something hard like addiction. It's like you just want to be able to provide them with a level of hope that you're going to be able to get through what you're going through. It's going to change you, and you're going to come out like a butterfly, caterpillar to a butterfly, and you're going to be able to fly. And that's how, even though I'm not flying, maybe one day, but
one day. I see that for you.
One day, but you're going to be a different version of yourself, and that gives me so much hope, and that gives me so much strength, and knowing that I went through this, and whatever you're going through too, that you're going to come out a new version and change the world. That's the goal.
That's right. Oh, Natalie, thank you so much for being here with us today. It has been incredible to sit down and chat with you. And I just even feel like that is a word for our hurting listeners. Like, listener, Nothing is Wasted community. If you are praying, you don't feel like God is meeting you, or you've gone through something really, really terrible, hear what Natalie's saying. She's right about this. God is in the business of transformation. And if you are willing to surrender and say yes, and be courageous and do the work, as Deuteronomy talks about, you'll experience this growth that Natalie's talking about. Natalie, where can our listeners find and follow all that you're doing?
Yes, I do my best to share all of my fun thoughts and adventures on my Instagram at Natalie, Natalie, last name Buchoz, Buchoz. And thank you so much for having me. What an amazing conversation. I love what you guys are doing. And I think Davey's story is also just so incredible and beautiful and transformative. And it's an honor to sit with you, and hopefully we'll get to do it again soon.
That's right. Thanks for being here, Natalie. We're so grateful for you.
Thanks, Aubrey.
Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us for today's episode of the Nothing is Wasted podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and found it as encouraging and insightful as we did. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever it is you like to listen. We would love for you to rate and review as well. Your feedback actually helps us connect with listeners who need hope and healing, listeners just like you. And so we'd love to invite you to do that. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow the show notes for that, or you can just go on the YouTube app and search for us. We also love connecting with you on social media. We love engaging with you there and hearing your stories of how God is using these stories to encourage you. So you can follow the ministry at Nothing is Wasted Ministries. You can follow me at AubSamp, and you can follow Davey at Davey Blackburn. Send us messages. We want to hear from you. And look, if you want to hear more about what we have here, the incredible resources that we have available to you at Nothing is Wasted to help you navigate whatever valley you're walking through, we want to invite you to visit our website, nothingiswasted.com. And if you're ready to start in your journey towards healing, go to nothingiswasted.com/start here for your next step. As always, we want to thank Sleeping at Last for providing all of the music on the podcast. We want to thank you, our Nothing is Wasted community. We want to thank our incredible guests. And remember, no matter what challenges you are walking through, nothing is wasted. Hey, thanks again for being here. We want to invite you to join us next time for an incredible conversation here on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. But before you go, check out a short clip from our next episode. Thanks for joining us, friends.
I think during the time in those low times, what's so helpful is that's all through the Bible. I mean, it is everywhere. You just talked about it with Joseph. I mean, you read the Psalms, and it is just, there's all kinds of landscapes that God takes us through. But I mean, you see godly men and women, and people who love the Lord going through valleys and going through deserts and going through storms and going through moments of deep desperation, and then the Lord coming and meeting them there. And so really through just the regular reading of scripture, it started opening up in ways that I just needed. I mean, I really needed it.